Hello, everyone. So Kylie wanted me to share some more of my stories, interactions with police officers. But I wanted to start off today by just reading something we all take for granted, especially before we had this pandemic called COVID. Just going to read the definition of breathe. Take air into your lungs and then expel it, especially as a regular physiological process. Why does that make me so sad? I'm going to tell you about some of the stories I've had being pulled over by police for different reasons. Sometimes, speeding, and this time I was speeding. I was going like 7 miles per hour over. It was 1:30 in the morning, and I got pulled over for going 7 miles over the speed limit. How many people have gone 7 miles over the speed limit? So I'm not saying it's wrong for him to have pulled me over for going 7 miles over the speed limit. However, what transpired afterwards, I'll never forget. I don't have to read this, but I did write this out because I had to respond to someone who calls himself my friend. I guess I do believe he's my friend. I just think he lacks a tremendous amount of understanding of what it is to be Black in America, Black in the world. He just does not really and truly believe in the inequalities that separate he and I in the way that we're treated, as him being a white male and me being a Black male. I guess I'll just read my response to him, because it started to get really ugly and really nasty on my Facebook, because some of my friends responded before I could, because I've been busy. Kylie knows I've been just busy. I've been speaking all week long. I've been down to Salt Lake for the protest at 6 a.m. I had to speak first. It's just been a tremendous amount of me being a Black man in America. And on top of that, I have work. I work full time and et cetera, et cetera. So, so I'll just read you my response. And it's pretty long, so get ready, get comfortable, because he had a lot to say, so I felt like I had to respond in a way that covered most of what was going back and forth on this thread and on Facebook. I still think there's more for he and I to discuss, and I mentioned that in the response. So I guess I have to go to my actual, kind of don't want to go on my Facebook, because when people see me on there, they start sending me messages. So see if I can do it another way. I'm gonna try and skip over his name. He's a popular guy. He's a well-known guy here in Logan. So out of respect for him, I'll just try and skip over his name. Forgive me if I slip up, but I'll do my best. All right, so he posted a picture that was a photocopy of a Black Lives Matter sheet of paper that was pure propaganda that said what Black Lives Matter believes in. And one of the lines was, I can't remember it verbatim, but it was definitely a racist sentiment and did not support what we support in Black Lives Matter. So I told him that picture you posted is bullshit propaganda. We, Black Lives Matter, do not print that kind of bullshit or on notebook paper, because it was like some copy paper. So I put stop it. This is a screenshot of our website. And a white man who was killed by the police has been there. Basically, it was saying we don't support white people at all. You know, that we're against white people and we won't stop until white people suffer just like black people do. So I printed a screenshot of the Black Lives Matter website, and you can go on there and see it for yourself. So this is a screenshot of the website, and a white man who was killed by the police has been there since he died years ago. I thought you were having difficulty as to why you do not stand up for me and black people and other people of color, disabled people, those with mental illnesses, you know, marginalized people in solidarity. How, skipping his name, I have strongly stated on several occasions throughout my conversations about race over many years on social media. I think my third ever profile picture was Uganda, to raise awareness about issues, death, and relationships to injustice, inequality. I was very new at social media, my first time ever. But I knew I should start saying something that mattered about injustice and inequality. My initial engagement did not immediately impact the way that I live my life in America due to the privileges I have been afforded. We all have privilege. To pout about you not having, to pout that you have none is a knee-jerk reaction and bullshit. I have privilege, and it has 20,000 more leagues. Sorry, this mask is just all over the place. I have privilege, and it has about 20,000 more leagues of barriers and obstacles than your privilege. White privilege does not mean you are born rich and bathe in every comfort afforded by luxury. It means when you and I walk into Al's Sporting Goods, and this is something that happened, when you and I walk into Al's Sporting Goods, you are not watched. And then they didn't try to hide it at all and presume to be a thief, to the point that 5 staff members watched and reviewed me as I went there to buy baseball caps for a trip to Paris, France the very next morning. I was taking my family, several other people to Paris, not to mention that I paid for every airline ticket and hotel accommodations directly across from the Eiffel Tower in advance. Meanwhile, I was followed around the store, which included the manager, because I wanted to purchase some hats for my trip. Don't bother giving me your version of I'm white and discriminated against in the same exact way version of it. I am fed up that you think you and I are treated with the same amount of fairness and justice in the world. I was telling someone and told many people about my first time in London. That was probably
14 years ago.
Maybe 16 years ago. And I was telling somebody about my first time in London just the other day, and I was in a suitcase tussle with the local authorities there before I could barely get off the Euro Express train on my very first visit. I am angry with you because I am disappointed by you. And I'm talking about my friend. I remember when I first met you and you said, you seem like a cool guy, let's get lunch and actually talk and get to know each other. Little did I know I should have talked to you about racism and injustice and inequality and the hurdles Black and other people of color have to go through very specifically. You and I do believe you are trying in your own way, well, at least before posting that notebook paper stunt, to come from a place of why we can't just all get along. I do know enough about you to know that, but that approach would require me to be quiet not stand up for black people. That is inclusive of me. This is in my mouth. Inclusive of me, people of color, and other disenfranchised people to make you comfortable with our friendship. I need Mario to filter and compromise his humanity, sacrifice his dignity of basic human rights. You may have heard breathing is one of my basic human rights for us to be friends. You and I should talk more. I find it hard to believe volleying a few replies on this thread is going to resolve or open your eyes to the injustice we experience in real life daily, every day. Every day, not just on hard times. I'm not on hard times, but I still have to navigate hardcore racism along the way. When have you been standing in your front yard, another thing that happened, right here in Logan this time. When have you been standing, well, the Al Sporting Goods thing happened here in Logan also. So when have you been standing in your front yard and had a glass beer bottle thrown at you? I can answer that for you. It's a rhetorical question. And when the police showed up, the cops tried to convince us that it could have been an accident. That's what a Logan police officer tried to convince me of. Somebody threw a beer bottle out of the window. It was 4 or 5 guys in a car. They slowed down to probably about 3 or 4 miles per hour in front of my house. My partner Raymond was sitting on the front porch with a friend, talking with the friend, and I'm standing in the yard, like watering one of the gardens. And this car slows down. I can see them muttering, saying something. I can't really hear what they're saying, but the next thing I know, a beer bottle is being hurled out of the driver's side window over the roof of the car in my direction. Hits the ground, breaks, beer is fizzing on the ground, so it's full of beer. And then they drive off. The light was red, so I chased them. I chased the car. I'm a Detroit boy, I don't play that. I chased the car. The light turns green, they take off through the green light, they get away. I'm not paying attention to the license plate because I'm just so angry. So when have you been standing in your front yard and had a glass beer bottle thrown at you? Those were his words, that it could have been an accident. There were 3 of us present when it all happened, and from start to finish. They were sitting on my front porch talking when it all happened. And the cop tried to pacify me with the aforementioned quote, plus maybe they were littering. So I guess it's okay to litter in front of someone's home if you're white and drive a Pontiac Grand Am. Yes, I remember the car because I chased it. I wrote about it. If you were me, if it were me throwing that bottle, I would have not had the opportunity to say I can't breathe. I would have been shot a dozen times, and America would have said that guilty, unruly thug had it coming. If you hadn't been breaking the law, Mario, you wouldn't have had to die by the hands of the police. They fixed the problem. They fixed that problem.